My name is Leilani Thatcher, a tour guide at the Library of Lost Things. This is The Doorstep Project, episode 41, Satsuma season. We're in December of 2025 now, which means we are smack dab in the middle of our holiday season. Last year, we did one big holiday episode about Christmas. This year, this is our only episode about Christmas. I would like to take this moment as well to remind you that the podcast will be taking a break for Christmas and that the museum itself will be closed from December 24th to January 2nd. On to the episode. This week, we're talking about oranges. Christmas oranges. When I was younger, the last thing that we would find in our Christmas stockings was an orange. It was the least exciting part of the holiday, but I never questioned the presence of the fruit. To this day, when I return home for Christmas, I find an orange shoved in the bottom of my stocking. When I was 8 years old, I saw this movie, Christmas Oranges. It was a sweet story based off of a book by Linda Bethers and Ben Swords. And I so highly recommend watching the movie, or at least reading the book. And I wanted to read the story for our Christmas episode, but it's not as old as I thought it was, so not in the public domain. The book is about a girls' orphanage and a kind man who brings the girls oranges as a special treat for Christmas. One of the girls, a new girl from a different orphanage, had never had an orange in her life. I won't spoil the story, but it's beautiful and has such a sweet ending. I think of this movie often, usually at Christmas time when I'd find the orange in my stocking. And I always assumed it was a tradition from America, until I heard a man from the UK talking about finding Satsumas in his stockings. I'm not citrusly educated, so I had to Google what a Satsuma was, but I was shocked to find that the orange tradition stretched across the pond. The obvious question here is, why? Why in the world would anyone give children oranges for Christmas? The most common explanation for these oranges comes from a Catholic tradition. In the 3rd century, in modern-day Turkey, a man named Nicholas was born. Not much is known about the life of this man, except that he was said to be kind and devout to the church. He was called Saint Nicholas, Nicholas the Wonder Worker, Sinterklaas, and eventually Santa Claus. And before he was any of that, he was simply Nicholas of Myra. As Nicholas of Myra, he did many great and wonderful things, or so says the stories. According to the legend, Nicholas had heard that a man with 3 daughters had faced such severe financial trouble that the girls had no dowry to marry and therefore no way to find a better financial situation. The father knew that they would have to resort to dire straits. Nicholas heard of the situation and knew that the man would not accept charity of any kind, so he devised a plan. In the middle of the night, Nicholas went to the man's house and threw a small bag of coins through the window, enough for the eldest daughter's dowry. The next morning, the man found the sack of gold and praised God for the blessing, then quickly went to arrange a marriage for his eldest child. When Nicholas heard that his gift had been used for its intended purpose, he returned, again at night, and with the same weight of coins, and threw it through the window for the second daughter. The next morning, the same happened. The father and daughter praised God, and the second daughter was married. Now the man was expecting the 3rd bag, and wanted to know who it was that God had sent to bless him. Nicholas didn't know the man was waiting for him, and threw another bag through the window. The man saw Nicholas leaving and chased him, bowing before him and thanking him for his kindness. The story ends with St. Nicholas charging the man not to tell a single soul of his service and sending him home. I will note that some iterations of this tale say that Nicholas dropped the bags down the chimney or that he put them in the girls' stockings as they were drying by the fire. This is often attributed to the tradition of stockings and Santa coming down the chimney. But the oranges. In some Catholic traditions, oranges are used to represent the gift that St. Nicholas left for the girls. This is not the only reason or story that I found, but it is the most prevalent. In all my research on oranges and their origins, this is what I have decided. Oranges, satsumas, mandarins, and hundreds of other orange-like citrus fruit are common Christmas or New Year's gifts and decorations because they're easy to ship. Most citrus fruits have thick rinds that protect them from both cold and heat as well as jostling of movement while in transportation. Of all the fruits to transport across the world, oranges and their related fruits were the easiest. The sweet taste of China oranges and the bitter taste of Seville oranges made it a diverse fruit that quickly overtook the earth as soon as trade routes became prevalent. Of course, there were many times and places that oranges were more valuable. In America, during the Great Depression, Christmas oranges were a sweet treat just for that special day, because fresh fruit was a commodity that not many could afford. If you were to have arrived in a small town in Scotland with a bundle of oranges in the 1600s, you can bet you'd be the talk of the town. Imagine introducing early Japanese citizens to the sweetness of the mandarin orange, a different variety of orange than the large, bitter fruit that they used in their holiday traditions. One of the earliest mentions of the orange actually comes from an ancient Chinese text, where it said they were given to an emperor as a gift. So, if you find a Satsuma in your stocking this year, you can remember the hundreds of thousands of years of history that fruit represents. You may think of St. Nicholas and his noble gifts, or you may consider the Great Depression and those children who got to try an orange once a year. Maybe you'll get lucky this year and the fruit will be forgotten in the fridge, but you can still take a moment to remember the rest of us pulling oranges out of our stockings instead of candy. I think of an adorable little book made into a movie about an orphan girl and her Christmas orange. But that's just me. Thank you for listening to The Doorstep Project. This audio drama was created and produced by Family Friendly Podcasts. If you enjoyed the podcast, leave a rating and review on your podcast app of choice or share it with a friend. Leilani and the project will be back next week. Until then, write every day. One day, your story could be in a museum. The Doorstep Project is produced by Family Friendly Podcasts. It was written, edited, and performed by AJ Barton. Sound effects for this podcast are provided by Zapsplat. Music used in this podcast includes Enchanted Journey by Kevin McLeod, licensed under the Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 license. You can learn more at his website, incompetech.com, or at creativecommons.org. Both music and sound effects have been changed and edited by AJ Barton. Links for websites, information, and contact can be found in the description of the episode. Would you like to submit your story or art to the Doorstep Project? You can find information for story submission at familyfriendlypodcast.com/The Doorstep Project. Information on CC by 4.0 licenses can be found at creativecommons.org.